What's up, everybody? So today I got a video for you guys on balance affinity. So if you guys have watched my, it was 2 videos ago I think I did a whole video on like balance affinity, a bunch of games I played, and I have so much fun playing it. So I wanted to get this out to kind of show you what I do to play this if you want to try it out. Whether it's better or not, I think it's very comp dependent, but in general it is very fun to play. So if you're kind of getting stale the game, you know, that's kind of what's happening in my from my point of view, is I was just like, I'm just kind of getting bored. I'm doing the same thing over and over. So I was like, oh, let's try balance affinity, and it's actually really fun. It kind of changes up your playstyle a bit from playing feral affinity all the time. And yeah, so I'll show you guys some of the stuff that I do with balance affinity, and I hope you guys enjoy. Make sure you guys like and subscribe if you like it. Let's get right into it. All right, so for the setup for this, only thing I really have that's different than what I normally do is have balance affinity, of course, and make sure you have a master shapeshifter. Master shapeshifter was changed in Shadowlands when it comes to balance affinity, and it is extremely better. I think I forgot what, I don't even remember what it was. I think it was just it reduces the cast time of Wrath and Starfire, but now after you enter Moonkin form, the cast time of your Wrath Starfire is reduced by 30%, and their damage increased by 20%, so it makes them pump. And it makes it for a really interesting playstyle, kind of a little annoying at first, but it's kind of fun because you're like shifting a lot to keep this up, because this is only a 10-second duration, unlike Feral Affinity Master Shapeshifter, where it's up 100% of the time. So to get the benefit of it, you have to continuously be shifting. So if I shift out, I shift back in, and then it pops up for 7 seconds there. Let me actually let me pull this up here. Let's enable this. I made a tell me when for this when I was playing it, just so I could always, you know, keep an eye on the buff. So yeah, so when you shift into form, you get shapeshifted for 10 seconds. For that duration, your cast speed of Wrath and Starfire reduced by 30%, and the damage increased by 20%. All right. Secondly, you do not need Heart of the Wild for this. I feel like it more likely would be better with Bash, but I think it's a ton of fun to play with Heart of the Wild, because during Heart of the Wild for balance affinity, you get all your damage increased by 30%, just like Feral Affinity would for Cat form. But you also get instant Star Surges, which is what it's all about. I don't know why it's not always instant, to be honest. Like for Boomy, it's always instant. Why did they make it cast it for Resto? But besides the point. And then the last piece, which I think is the best part of this, is Oath of the Elder Druid Legendary. This is the Heart of the Wild Legendary, so you get 75% bonus from your Affinity bonus, which for Balance Affinity is an extra 8. It's not normally 8 yards. I think it's 5 yards, I think, or 4 or 5, and then it goes up to 8 for when you use this Legendary. So you get the extra range, and every 1 minute when you shift into Moonkin form in combat, you get Heart of the Wild for 10 seconds. So that is kind of how I play this. I play around this Legendary more most of the time. So, and if you guys do not know how this Legendary works, it does not trigger while in combat, right? So if I'm, you know, if I shift into Moonkin form here and I cast, I don't have it on, right? But this, if I shift out and shift back in, I get it. And now I have instant Star Surge, and I can start pumping damage. All right. So that's kind of the setup when it comes to gear. When it comes to playstyle with this, what I tend to do is, one, make sure Moonfire is keeping going, because you, especially if you're playing Heart of the Wild or with the Lego, Moonfire is going to get buffed by 30%, as well as Starfire or Sunfire. So I don't always keep up Sunfire, but the cases where I can keep up both dots and Swarm because I'm Necro, I think that's going to get the best bonus for when you do use Heart of the Wild. You can get that extra 30% on both of those dots going. When it comes to the casting, I typically only play in this Shapeshifter. Once Shapeshifter falls, you want to be shifting out. You don't want to be back in there. All right, it's not worth casting when you don't have this buff. So what I usually do is I'll have Moonfire, maybe Sunfire, maybe Swarm. I'll shift into the form, and I will cast whichever one to trigger my Eclipse. So see how Starfire says 2 on it? That means you need to cast 2 Starfires to initiate a solar eclipse, and then you can start casting Wrath. And then if Wrath has, Wrath has the 2 on it, then you got to cast Wrath twice to get the if you guys have not played Boomy and you play Resto, you have to just swap eclipses. So once you get a lunar eclipse, you have to you keep casting Starfire until you get a solar eclipse, and vice versa. You keep swapping. And when you first get into combat, you have a choice here for 2, so you can choose either one. Typically, I will cast the Starfires first. If you guys don't know, Starfire is not on this, is not a nature's class, not a nature cast. So if you do happen to get kicked on it, you could still cast your heals. But if you get kicked on Wrath, you cannot heal. All right, so again, dot them up. Typically what I'll do in my opener, I will cast this, I'll get my Heart of the Wild, I'll cast 2 Starfires into a Star Surge right at the end of that, and then I'll just start spamming Rats. And like you can see, these Rats are so fast, and then by the time I'm back out, if you want to keep doing damage, you shift back out, you shift back in, and then you keep busting it. You know? And you keep shooting those Rats and whatnot. But when this is up, when this is off, and then now I shift to Lunar Eclipse, I can start casting that. Once that comes out, you got to shift out, cancel form, shift back in, and then you keep casting. You never want to be in, you never want to be casting when this is when you do not have Master Shapeshifter. So that's about a lot of the damage part of it. You can use Heart of the Wall for the same reason. What else I wanted to add? Yeah, so just basically just keep swapping back and forth, and I think that's it about for when it comes to the damage. So if you have time, you can, you can shift out, shift back in, but a lot of the times, especially when I was playing like more higher rated games, the only times I was really, pumping the damage was during those Heart of the Wild, those 1 minute cooldowns. So like, yeah, again, you do not need Heart of the Wild. Bash is probably better overall. Even if you're not playing with it, you could still kind of, just only do damage during your Heart of the Wild procs, so every minute. The biggest thing though you gotta get used to if you do want to try this is the range. All right, so you don't want to be you don't want to be casting Wrath like right here, right in front of the guy, right? You have an enormous range. If you don't know what like I was saying with this legendary, I have on all of my spells a 49-yard range. All right, and on top of that is Cyclone, that is 30 yards, I believe, 29. Just for reference here, you can hit somebody from this far away. This is a very far distance. So when you're at this range, if you can manage to get used to staying max range all the time, you can't get kicked because other kicks are 40 yards. You can't get CC'd, you can't get charged or whatever. You're at such a long range, and this goes for healing as well. When you're playing this, like this target back here, I can heal from way back here. Like this is ridiculous. And you can I would take full advantage of this. This is the main reason why I find this beneficial. This balance affinity being worth it outside of the damage is you can actually use it strategically against a lot of comps to, make your game feel better and actually increase your win chances. I've been testing it out a lot, like what comps this works well into, and it definitely Frosty K, 100%, because Frosty K's work around, gripping the healer in, and then they just go, So if you're able to stay 49 yards away the whole game, his grip is 40. You can't get gripped. So if you could just play there. So when I play against DKs, I'm sitting max range here doing damage or healing and whatnot. Let's say I'm healing my target. The second I see the DK move towards me, I move back. And he can never grip me unless I'm forced out, or like my teammate runs behind a pillar or something like that. Some way to make me get forced out of position. And then secondly, for CC, right? So there's other comps like Hunter Priest specifically. I'm going to show a clip from a Hunter Priest game I played, and if you're able to stay out of range of Intimidation and Chastise Stun, you can't get trapped, right? It's also very comp dependent. Some map, or it's not comp, map dependent. So some maps you're not even gonna be able to do that. But when you're able to stay this far away and heal, this far away and do damage, there's just they can't CC you, and if you can't get CC'd, you have a way better chance of winning the game. The one thing I would say, do not run it into. Do not run Balance Affinity if you think you're gonna get trained. Like if you're playing against a warrior or warriors. I have run it against warriors. Depends on the warrior though. Some warriors will sit on me. If they sit on me, the game gets a little hard. But if they don't go, they go my DPS, easy game. And then so like Windwalkers, DHs, rogues, do not run it into. Casters you can. Just be careful getting kicked. Again, you don't want to get kicked on Wrath or Star Surge and lose the game, But outside of that, I think the advantage you can get from the range is actually really nice. So I just want to show you guys a few clips. So this was the first clip, was maybe the potential of damage you could put out. So this was a against a red paladin here, and I was setting up my dots, whatever, recovering from the healer or from the damage, and I end up getting a chain of starfires off that I've never seen this many hits in a row. If these abilities crit, like I have a 6% crit chance, 7% crit chance. So I press Heart of the Wild here. I get my rats into a lunar eclipse. I star surge and then I spam starfires. I end up getting 3 6Ks in a row. Like that is 18K damage in that little span of 5 seconds. I just did, and then if you count the star surges too. Let me just put it in perspective. What was that whole chain there? All right, so where's my damage at? 52K. So after all these hits, wow. Okay, so that was 30K damage I just did in that window. That 10-second window, I just did 30K damage. Just like the potential of the damage part of this, right? You could do a lot of damage. And then these are some other games here I wanted to show you guys. So this was a BM Hunter game. I was playing Bajiro at this game. This was an example of how, maybe this was an extremely long game, how this comp specifically, this is a very popular comp right now, Holy Priest BM Hunter, is how you could actually just stay literally out of the fight. You have really long range on your clones, really long range on all your heals and damage. That is actually really hard for them to get CC on you and win the game, because they need to CC you to win the game, especially with this comp. If the warrior just gets to run free and I get to run free, they ain't gonna do anything. And then, you do also have potential, like, again, this is a higher rated game. These guys are both good players on the other team. You have potential to, still do big damn with this. So like, this is actually a cool example here. I actually get the KB on this with a crit. So they're worried about lining my warrior because obviously he's in like execute range. I actually pop off a Heart of the Wild here, and I get a Starfire into a Star Surge, and I crit him for 9.7K. I have crit upwards of 11K with this. That is without Sky Fury. If you're playing with an Ellie Shaman or something, maybe you can even get it even higher. But that's sick that you can potentially get 11K on just an instant cast. That's a 1 minute cooldown because you're basing it around Heart of the Wild, right? And then the other one I want to show you is this was playing it with an Ellie. So this is another thing you can do when you're playing with a caster. So when I was playing with a warrior, you're kind of just playing omega far back because you just never want the game, you don't want to ever get touched. But when you're playing with a caster, you can kind of get in there a little bit more because that their odds are they're never going to swap to you. Like this Pharaoh is probably never going to swap to me. He's always going to be sitting on my Ellie. And yeah, like examples like this was the opener here. I end up full hotting up my Ellie, and then I just get full freedom to pump here. I think I get my proc, my Heart of the Wild. I get Wrath, Star Surge to spam Starfires. Like I'm already pumping 43K. Well, I was actually Thorns, but anyway, when you're playing with the caster, playing throughout a game, you can get the opportunity to basically do a lot more damage because their odds are they're going to be sitting on that DPS the whole game. When you get these chain Wraths off and whatnot. Chain Wraths, chain Starfires, you could be spamming 3K ticks every one. It's like a 1.5 second cast or something like that. But at the end of the day, I would just recommend trying it out. I think it's a very, very fun spec to try out, especially if you're getting a little bored of what you've been normally doing for Resto Druid. So yeah, if you guys have any questions about Balance Affinity or anything in general you want to know, make sure you guys leave a comment. I always read all the comments. Make sure you like and subscribe, tell a friend, and I hope to see you in the next one. Peace.